Hello everyone, I hope you are very healthy and consistent. In today's video, we will start with chapter 18 of this book, Procrastination, Perfection, and a Polished Beer Garden. In order to kick ass, you must first lift up your foot. Jen Sincero, author, coach, self-quoter. One of my first jobs out of college was production coordinator for the Ethnic Folk Arts Festival, which was put on by a little non-profit group in New York City. I heard about the position opening up from a friend and decided I had to have the job even though I'd never produced a thing in my life and find folk art to be fairly yawnable. It looked like fun anyway. They worked out of a funky loft in Tribeca, knew a lot about music, brought their dogs to work, and the festival I'd be working on gathered musicians, dancers, and artists from around the globe and brought them together in a polished beer garden in Queens for a big fat party, which meant men in skirts and free sausage and beer. So I put together a resume that listed such achievements as produced plays in college, demanded my friends show up to watch my boyfriend act, started several organizations in high school, started a sledding team that had no competition and only one meeting where we spent most of our time figuring out how to score some beer, worked at my college radio station, hung around while my friend DJ Ed. Then I got all dressed up in some business casuals that I borrowed from my mom that didn't fit and marched off to my interview. A couple of hours later, me and my big mouth had a new job. That night I laid awake in the wide-eyed horror. My God, what have I done? I am a monster. These sweet, big-hearted, sandal-wearing people just handed me a coffee can full of money that they spent an entire year collecting for this festival, and I am the lying fat hat who's gonna blow it. I thought about turning myself in, but unwilling to turn down a good party, went for it instead and wound up working harder for them than I had ever worked in my life. I decided that I'd rise to the occasion, that I would do whatever it took to make this the best damn festival that the Polish Beer Garden had ever seen. And I pulled it off with flying colors, if I do say so myself. I got all 27 of my unemployed friends to hand out flyers and take tickets in exchange for the aforementioned free sausage and beer. Herded the unruly polka dancers into their places on time, got the latke vendors set up, and saw to it that the bagpipe parade went off without a hitch. If there's something you really want, I'm not necessarily saying you should lie to get it, but I'm saying you are probably lying to yourself if you are not going after it. Because so often, when we say we are unqualified for something, what we are really saying is that we are too scared to try it, not that we can't do it. Most of the time, it's not lack of experience that's holding us back, but rather the lack of determination to do what we need to do to be successful. We put so much energy into coming up with the excuses why can't we do or have the things we want and designing the perfect distractions to keep us from our dreams. Imagine how far we'd get if we just shut up and used all that energy to go for it instead. Here's the good news. First, we all know way more than we give ourselves credit for knowing. Second, we are drawn to things we are naturally good at, which counts more than having a graduate degree in the subject, by the way. Third, there's no better teacher than necessity. Fourth, passion trumps fear. In hindsight, I realized that I was more qualified for that job than I thought. I am a big sister, which means I'm naturally bossy. I love throwing parties and I can talk to anyone. Even 76-year-old Russian man who don't speak English and are freaking out because they can't find their tights. I went on to do many more things that I was unqualified for, but I also wasted plenty of time pretending I wasn't ready to do some other things I really wanted to do. And shockingly, the times I jumped in and went for it were way more fun than the times I spent sitting around, getting ready and doing nothing instead. Whether it's an online dating profile you are not ready to post, or a trip you want to take after you lose 10 pounds, or a business you want to start as soon as you save enough money. Just start now. Do whatever it takes. You could get run over by the ice cream man tomorrow. One time I spent an entire month preparing my office to write a book. I got just the right chair, put the desk in the perfect place by the window, organized all the materials I needed, and then reorganized them 3 times, cleaned the place until you could perform surgery on the floor, and then proceeded to write the entire thing at my kitchen table. Procrastination is one of the most popular forms of self sabotage because it's really easy. There are so many fun things you can do in order to procrastinate, and there's no lack of other people who are totally psyched to procrastinate with you. And while it can be super fun in the moment, eventually the naughtiness buzz wears off and you are sitting there a few years later feeling like a loser, wondering why the hell you still haven't gotten your act together and why other people we know are getting big fat promotions at their jobs or taking trips around the world or talking about the latest orphanage they have opened in Cambodia on NPR. If you are serious about changing your life, you'll find a way. If you are not, you'll find an excuse. In the interest of getting you where you want to go in this lifetime, here are some tried and true tips to help you stop procrastinating. First, remember that done is better than perfect. Just get the damn website up already or send out the mailer or make the sales call or book the gig even though you are not totally ready yet. Nobody else cares or will probably even notice that everything isn't 100% perfect. And quite honestly, nothing ever will be 100% perfect. Anyway, so you might as well start now. There's no better way to get things done than to already be rolling along. Momentum is a wonderful thing, not to mention highly underrated. So get off your ass and get started now. Second, notice where you stop. When you are working on whatever you are working on or whatever you are pretending to work on, where exactly do you stop? Is it when you have to do the research, make the scary phone calls, figure out how to raise the money right after you start, when you have to commit, when it starts getting good, right before it takes off, before you even get out of bed? If you can pinpoint the precise moment that you say, screw it, I'm out of here, you can prepare yourself for hitting the oil slick by hiring coaches or assistants or psyching yourself up for delegating that particular part of it out or removing known distractions. For example, let's say you discover that every time you sit down to make calls to try and book yourself a speaking gig, you mysteriously find yourself pulled into Facebook for hours. Turn off the internet or go someplace to make your calls where you can't get online, like a park or your car or Antarctica, and then decide that you have to make 5 calls before you can check back in and see if anyone commented on the picture you posted of your cat eating a potato chip. Third, make a bet with someone new. A good way to make yourself accountable is to make a bet with someone who will hold you to it. They must have no mercy. They can't coddle you or understand that you tried your best. You want the kind of person who will make you feel humiliated even before the excuses come out of your mouth, or who will show up at your doorstep with a burlap sack, a big rock, and a blindfold should you attempt to wiggle out of paying your debt. And make sure you bet something that's painful to lose, but not too unrealistic. For example, you could bet someone $1,000 that you'll have the first chapter of your book written by a certain day. Make it a payable amount that you really don't want to pay, but that's barely within your reach. Then write the check out to him. Include the payment date and keep it over your desk to remind you what's in store if you don't get the job done. And if you really want to up the stakes, tell him that if you don't meet your deadline, instead of giving him the money, you'll donate the $1,000 to a group or cause that makes your flesh crawl. Personally, I find this kind of horror works wondrous for my self discipline. Fourth, own it and work with it. If you are the kind of person who blows everything off until the last minute and you know this about yourself, why waste your time freaking out while you are not doing what you are supposed to be doing? Go to the damn beach, have a cocktail, and when the pressure's on, get down to business. There's nothing worse than time wasted pretending to work or stressing out while trying to have fun. No work gets done and no fun is had. It's the worst of both worlds. Figure out how much time you truly need to get the job done and go do something else until the clock starts ticking. Fifth, love yourself. Right now, wherever you are at. Now we will start with chapter 90, the drama of overwhelm. I have lived a long life and had many troubles, most of which never happened. Mark Twain, American author, humorist. When I set out to write a new book, I find it very helpful to start with a separate index card for each chapter. I put the chapter title at the top of each card, write my notes in the space underneath, and then spread them all out on a table so I can see the whole thing at once. I just did this a few days ago and it was so exciting. Behold, my glorious new book. About 2 seconds later, however, I was seized by panic. OMG, that is a lot of chapters. How the hell am I going to get it all done in time? My deadline is speeding around the corner and I'm not even entirely sure what I'm putting in each section yet. What was I thinking? How come I didn't start this 8 months ago? Is it too early for wine? Someone help me. I'm sinking. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Just do one chapter at a time. So I pulled the random card off the table, opened my eyes, and it was, of course, the drama of overwhelm. I'd like to remind you and me that the majority of the pain and suffering in our lives is caused by the unnecessary drama that we create. If we happen to find ourselves, for example, in a catatonic state of overwhelm, hugging our knees while rocking back and forth with our mouths hanging open, just like everything else in our lives, all it takes is a shift in perception to create a new reality. Life is but a dream, don't turn it into a nightmare. We are so unbelievably blessed to have all the things we have, all the opportunities and ideas, and people and tasks and interests and experiences and responsibilities. Choosing to freak out about it all rather than enjoying living off our lives is like throwing pearls before swine. Such a waste of such a glorious gift. In the interest of helping you get a more pleasant perspective on your massive to do list, let's take the three most common complaints about overwhelm and pretty them up. First, there's not enough time. Thanks to the hard work of people with big brains, we know that time is an illusion, while most people have no idea what the hell that means. There is another angle that's a lot easier to grasp. Not having time is an illusion. For example, I don't have time to find a real parking spot, so I'll park in this loading zone. Oh, look at that. I just spent 3 hours. I don't have getting my car out of my tow garage, another two getting lost on the way home, and 45 minutes complaining about it to my wife. I don't have time to clean my office. Oh, look at that. I just spent a half an hour that I don't have looking for my phone that was buried beneath a pile of crap. Oh, and look at that. My phone is dead, which means I'm about to waste even more time. I don't have looking for the damn charger which might be under this pile of books over here. Please, I hope. When we are forced to do something, suddenly the time is there, which means it's there all the time. But we have just chosen to limit ourselves by believing that it isn't. Ever notice how if you have got 6 months to do something, it'll take you 6 months to do it. But if you have a week, it will take you a week. Once you understand that time, like the rest of your reality, is in your mind, you can make it work for you instead of being its slave. Here are some things you can do right now to start wrangling time into submission. Show some respect. If you want more time in your life, show time some respect. If you are constantly late, if you blow things off, or if you are a flake, you are not sending a message to the universe or others or yourself that you value this precious time that you create and are trying to create more of for yourself. You can create anything you desire, but you have to truly want it. If you act like this time isn't important, that it's fully worth wasting and disrespecting, you are not in alignment with what you say you want. So you are gonna have a hard time getting it. I mean, think of time as a person. Would you expect time to keep showing up for you if you constantly treated it like it was just some dumb thing that didn't matter? I should think not. If you are always late, being early, if you constantly cancel or flake or forget your dates with people, get it together. Write down your appointments and keep them. Set your alarm on your cell phone to remind you to get ready early. Write things on the back of your hands. Keep your word if you say you are going to do something. It's not rocket science. If you want to have a good relationship with time, have a good relationship with time. Not only will this help you create more time in your own life, but you'll stop being one of those rude people who constantly waste everyone else. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. What do you find yourself doing instead of doing what you are supposed to be doing? Screwing around on Facebook, answering emails, eating even though you are not hungry. Once you know what your favorite distractions are, you can build up a good defense against them. Turn off the internet and phone while you are working. Make the kitchen off limits until you are done. If you constantly find yourself standing in front of the open refrigerator door in a stupor, we get into such bad habits that half the time we don't even realize what we are doing. Once you become aware of what your weak spots are, you can start to protect yourself against them. Chunk it down. There's nothing more deflating than looking at some giant task and wondering how you'll ever get it all done. So don't try and eat the whole elephant at once. Break it down into bite-sized bits. For example, instead of walking around your entire house from one catastrophically messy room to the next, wondering how you are ever going to clean the whole gigantic thing and trying to figure out how you can justify not doing it instead of trying to figure out how you are going to do it. Break it down and just focus on one room at a time. Our brains can handle so much information at once without exploding. So, by looking at each task separately, the larger task suddenly becomes more manageable. Brains love chunks. Chunking it down works greater for time too. For example, if you are working on designing a new website, instead of setting aside the entire day to work, decide that you'll work in an hour long chunks. During this time, you are unauthorized to get up to use the bathroom, get something to eat, check your text, go online, etc. Once your 60 minutes is up, you can take a break and do whatever you want until your next 60-minute chunk. We can do anything for 60 minutes. Our brains go into overwhelm when we try to do it all in one big block of time. Second, there's too much to do. Ever notice that whenever you ask someone how they are doing, about 99% of the time they something like good, really busy, but good, busy has become the new. Fine, thanks. I mean, where's the fun in that? What kind of messages does that send out to the world and ourselves? No wonder we all feel like we are living pinned beneath a giant cement slab of a to-do list. So yes, the first task is to watch your mouth. Stop talking about how busy you are. Focus on what you enjoy about what you do and the spaces in between the doing instead of feeling weighed down by it all. Decide that you live an awesome, relaxed life full of interesting projects that you love doing and communicate that to the world and yourself. And then go out and merrily do it. Get some help. If you are feeling totally confused and disorganized and don't know where to start or what to do next, get some outside perspective. A lot of times we are so tangled up in our own lives that we can't see something that's totally obvious to someone else. Ever spend some quality time searching for your glasses when they are sitting right on your head? It's sort of like that. You could spend hours or days or months or forever trying to figure out how to redo your website or plotting out an exercise regimen or figuring out how to organize your office when someone who isn't as buried alive but all the moving parts as you are can nail it right away. Get a new pair of eyeballs on the situation and get someone who knows what they are doing, please. Don't get money advice from someone who's as broke as you are or dating advice from the terminally single or decide that someone's main qualification for helping you is that they'll do it for free or trade. Working with a pro will save you time and money in the long run because you won't have to spend time undoing or doing over whatever your wimpy first attempt was. Hire a business coach. Ask a friend who is totally together and successful to sit with you. Hire a clutter consultant. And if none of this makes sense for your particular situation, read on. Get into reality. Sometimes we take on more than we can chew because we think we have to do it all, or that the world will fall apart if we don't do everything, or that we are bad, unlovable people if we don't do the 8 million things we are trying to do. So get very real with yourself here. Why are you doing all the things you are doing? Is it absolutely necessary that you do it all? Do you need to do it all at the same time? Can some of it wait? Be handed off to someone else? Drop all together? And if you must do it all, what would make it more enjoyable? Just like chunking down your tasks takes you out of freak out and puts things into manageable bite-sized pieces. Here's how to break it down. Make your to-do list. Look at it. What needs to happen right now? What can wait? Put these on two separate lists. Hide the wait list. What are the big important tasks on the now list? What are the little piddly ones? Give the piddly ones to someone else or save them for off hours and spend the day doing the most important tasks. It's called prioritizing people. The shorter the list you are working with, the better you'll feel. And remember, you are never gonna get it all done. So stop stressing about it. Do what you can do in your enjoy instead of trying to do it all in misery. Delegate or die. One of the best ways to lighten your load is to stop being a control freak and or a tightwad and hire someone to help you or delegate to those around you. See below. You absolutely cannot grow a business, get promoted, or be a cool parent, and you absolutely will go grey before your time if you try and do every single little thing by yourself. Figure out which task you hate doing or have always been bad at or just don't have time to do and find someone else to do them. I realize the reason you may not have done this yet is because you can't afford to hire someone, or because you think you are the best at it, or because you are a control freak. But like many other excuses, the answer is often there. You are just not looking at it properly. If you absolutely had to get some help, if it was a matter of life or death, what would you do? You could get an intern from your local college. You could get a friend or family member to help you out. You could hire someone for just 30 minutes a week and increase as you go. You could sell something to bring in the money to pay someone, or borrow it, or push yourself to make it. You could hand it over to human resources and make it their problem. You could ask your husband to empty the dishwasher and get your teenager to clean out the garage so you'd have more time. Help is all around us. Sometimes receiving it is simply a matter of looking at it differently or not giving up so easily. Deciding that you can't have something you need or want instantly cuts you off from the flow of manifesting it, as well as distances you from the part that lit you up about it in the first place. Once you think I can't, the universe is like, alrighty then, no assistance needed here. See you later. Even if you have no idea where it's going to come from, stay open to the possibility of support presenting itself, and you may be surprised by what you can create and how much help you can get. Decide you must have it. Trust that's available to you. Do everything you can to figure out a way to make it happen and trust that how it's going to happen will be revealed. Remember that you are #1. Put your priorities first. Don't check emails or voice messages or Facebook until you have gotten into your day and accomplished some of the tasks you want to do. Don't answer the phone or text while you are busy. Other people's needs can occupy several lifetimes worth of your attention, and if you let them, they will. Third, I am exhausted. The belief that taking time off will cause your entire life to collapse is not only unhealthy, but it's arrogant. The world will go on if you stop working. You see, if you don't take time off, your body will eventually put its foot down and make you sick. Bodies do it all the time. Stress is a leading cause of cancer, heart attacks, liver failure, stupid accidents, grouchiness, and suddenly not being able to breathe. Aside from the sickness factor, making time to do things that inspire you should also be a priority because what's the point of living life without them? Where's the fun in walking up at 85 and realizing you couldn't find the time to enjoy yourself? What were you doing that was more important instead? This is not a luxury reserved for people who are richer, smarter, or less bogged down than you are. It's a luxury reserved for people who take the time to figure it out and choose to design a more fun filled life. Use the tools in this chapter to make the time to get the rest you need and have the fun you want so you can enjoy your precious life while you are still in possession of it. Fourth, love yourself. You are doing an awesome job. We will start with chapter 20. Fear is for suckers in our next video. So please everyone stay tuned for the next part and I hope you are really enjoying. Like, subscribe, share and comment down any improvisation.